Huh? What? Oh, you pressed the record button, didn't you, trying to escape? Ah. Well, I guess I can get that over with while I'm dealing with you. 1 second, kiddos. Just gotta finish this up. Now stop squirming, you're dying anyway. There, that's better, isn't it? I know it is for my sake. I mean, seriously, she would not shut up for over an hour. I'm dying, help me, please stop. Who cares? I was just asking for directions. Anyway, since she pressed my recording device on, I might as well share something with you. Let's see. What do I have that I can give you? Oh yes, I do owe a favor to a certain friend. A friend that you may know. Let's see. This recording is from a college professor. Why don't you listen to him while I clean up? I mean, seriously, she left a mess all over my floor. I really need to get a maid.
You know I'm a historian and Latin teacher. I taught at Cambridge for many years until now. I don't know if you remember my age, but with few disabilities I was unable to conveniently make the journey from my home to Cambridge every day, thus settled into early retirement at 40, 10 years ago. I had left a wealthy man, and if I balanced my savings, I could live the rest of my days without working another day. But my work is never done. Every now and then, usually once a month, I get an offer from some archaeologist or historian asking for my help. Most of these I decline, but sometimes one gets stuck in my head. I accept. If only to relieve the unending boredom of retirement. Even though officially I gave up on life and disabilities, I still had a bit of youth in me. If only I had not done that, though. The most recent of these requests came 2 months ago from Cornwall. An old college buddy of mine, Martin, claimed to have found something. He didn't say what it was and just simply told me to come in as soon as possible. Overcome with curiosity and filled with the boredom of 10 years retirement, I agreed. What did he find, I wondered? When I reached Martin, he seemed obvious in excitement, tinged with fear, though he refused to tell me what he was afraid of. He gave me what looked to be a book, missing one half and the back cover cracked with at least 400 years of age. Bound in leather. Be delicate, he told me, then proceeded to gently lift the cover. What I saw was a symbol. It looked like a small circle in the direct center of the page, the ink eroded with time. The circle had upon it a diagonal cross, appearing like an X mark. Every page is like that, Martin told me later in the study. Every single one. Some of my contacts carbon dated the leather to be 700 years old. Now try this. He raised a small vial filled with a black powder-like substance and sprinkled it on the open page. Carbon, he informed me. The page isn't damaged, just watch. Now he took out half a lemon and squeezed a single drop. Sulfuric acid, he informed me. Now watch the symbol. All I could see was Martin damaging the book. But then looking at the symbol, there was a clear L in the center. You would have to squint to see it, but you would be able to. Carbon and sulfuric acid, Martin informed me. Someone figured out a chemical reaction even we don't know about. This is going in the books. Someone knew about chemistry that we didn't know about 600 years ago. Someone hid a message in here. I pressed Martin for questions, but he halted me with a parchment paper. Dave, I think you want to see this. The letters in order of how they appear, the pattern is repeating through the 104 pages. Those exact letters in the exact order, over and over again, 13 times over. I glanced over at it. Liberami. A piece of information came to mind. Martin, you made a mistake. Add a space here between A and M. They're two words. Set me free. Libera. To liberate. Me? Carrying the same meaning today as it did in ancient Rome. One thing, though. This doesn't make any sense. Why would a man from the Middle Ages find out about these chemical reactions even we have no clue about, then learn a language that's dead in his time, and repeat those words over and over again? How do you explain that? Martin spoke up. Yeah, even Google Translate can tell you what it means. I hoped you would know why that happened. And there's one last thing. Look at the back page, page 105, or the inside back cover, whatever you want to call it. Take a look. A figure was on that page. A human-like creature with strange proportions I could not explain. Its legs and arms were abnormally long and stood between two rocks. Bound to them by what appeared to be ropes, beneath it a sentence. This one had not been doused in carbon nor sulfuric acid. This one was meant to be read. Ud Rakashas. Martin spoke up. It's Old Cornish, the Latin I discovered by chance. The carbon dosage was a routine for carbon dating. The sulfuric acid was added accidentally when we tested it. The Cornish proves it to be written here, but why the Latin? What does it mean? I asked. Ud Rakashas, it hated the dark places. I believe it's a metaphor for slavery. Look at the image. A man chained between two stones. Those look more like ropes, I tried to say. Rope, chain, there isn't a difference. Both are used in binding, in constraints. Now I need to get some sleep, and you need to figure out what this is. I could tell there was more to what he said. He was hiding something. The fast pace at which he spoke proved he was afraid of something, but I did not press him. I agreed. Even though it was almost midnight, I had slept the 7 hours on the plane, while Martin had been awake this entire time. Half an hour was spent going through every page. Each had been doused in a safe amount of carbon and acid in advance, allowing their contents to be visible to me. The only pattern was the symbol in those words. Set me free. My eyes closed then, and even while I typed this, I don't even know what I saw, but I know it wasn't human. From a distance, perhaps it could have been mistaken for one, a tall man, but when I say tall, I mean tall. I mean 3 meters high. It wore a business suit, one which looked like denim, a sort that could set a person back 1,000. But neither of these were what distinguished him. It's his face, or rather his lack of one, for I could see it standing within the very same room, appearing 3 meters tall, yet remaining within the constraints of this room without any effort. I knew that physically this was impossible. The room would look the same size, yet it was clearly too large to fit within, but did not even struggle to do it. It stood fully upright, and from my angle I could see it quite clearly. It lacked eyes. It lacked a mouth. It lacked ears, hair, anything on its face, leaving him nothing more than a tall mannequin. And when I saw his size, I came to the only logical conclusion. I was dreaming. His voice, a voice that belonged to no human, no thing that should exist. I could not describe it nor how it spoke. It had no mouth, and I am a man of science, but I am unable to explain. I could hear only a single chant. Liberami, liberami, liberami. And now I could see it clearly. I could see tendrils emanating from the creature, reaching into the walls. No, they were not from the creature. They bound the creature. The base of a single tendril, the point where it connected to that thing, I could see one, and the tendril at that point was a chain. I could not tell the material, but it had to be some kind of metal. No rust upon it, gleaming as though it was made that day. fresh from the forge. The nail that held the tendril to the creature, that held the creature to the tendril. And then it vanished. At the 7th time it stayed the chant. It vanished. My eyes had not deceived me. I was sure of that, and I had not slept long. The clock next to me stayed the time. It would be 7 minutes past what I closed my eyes. 7 minutes. I forced myself to try and forget. A hallucination, I told myself, brought on by my age and sleeplessness. Even though I could not forget that thing. I decided to tell Martin about it, but chose to wait until the next morning. That was the last opportunity I had to speak to him. For the next morning, I awoke to the screaming. Martin had an olive tree in the center of the garden. Cultivated across several generations, it had grown twisted, its branches jagged and leering, its trunk having forked into a Y near the base. I looked out the window and saw a woman, his wife, looking at the tree, or rather looking at what was above the tree. I raised my eyes to see what she was screaming at, and there I saw Martin. He was high up in the tree, but not climbing it. A tree limb had impaled him through the chest, pinning him there. There was very little blood around it, almost none seeping through. The police arrived an hour later. Martin lived on a remote country household, around half an hour's drive from their main city. The first thing they did was interrogate me, and it seemed as though I was the prime suspect. In the end, it was classified as suicide. According to them, Martin leapt from the top floor and impaled himself on the branch. The next day, the funeral was held. Martin was an antisocial man, and thus only 8 people, myself included, turned up. After the others left, I remained for a few minutes, said a few words, and then I saw it again. The thing stood up next to me. This time, I didn't panic. Sensing what it was looking at, the gravestone, I turned, but my mask of calm began to break down. "Tell me," I said, forcing every word. "Why?" Its neck turned and faced me. I could feel it staring me down without eyes. I could feel a pressure on my mind, and I knew distinctly that this thing was keeping me calm. Somehow it stopped me panicking. Somehow this creature prevented me from gathering the fear to run. And I could see an expression. I don't know how to describe it, but somehow in that face there was a meaning. I knew he had never meant for this. I realized what had happened. As with me, he had sent the same message to Martin. But seeing that thing drove me to fear. I had no idea how many times he contacted Martin. Seeing him every night, and perhaps at the other times when he tried to get a message across, could bring someone to the verge of suicide. As with Martin, I had been terrified almost to the point of heart attack the previous night, and my fear paralyzed me. If that happened several times, perhaps like Martin, I would have ended it. And once more he spoke. Numquam volat lasir liberami. Lasir. I did not have to think to know what he meant, and so I decided to spread this. Put it up in some remote corner of the internet. Every other site I tried rejected it, claiming it as fiction. I claim the opposite. If you see him, please do not be afraid. Listen to him, listen to his instructions, and free him, please. For the sake of everyone, please.
Alright, finally have that all cleaned up. Well, I better start looking for a maid because this is seriously getting out of hand. I mean, if this keeps happening every freaking day. Yeah. Anyone interested in the job? You're probably wondering why I owe a couple of favors to this man of sorts, if you would call him that. Well, he has a certain talent for confusing people, and I like my enemies confused. They stay out of the way because of that. And he's really good at it. Actually, he's actually more good at driving people insane and making them commit suicide, but hey, gets the job done, right, fellas? Anyway, please come back because I have... Please come back later. Because I have a couple ideas I'm going to put out soon. So stay tuned for that. Anyway, ta-ta, fellas.